Welcome back. Tonight I'm in Newport at the Newport Float Therapy Center because tonight I'm going to float in a sensory deprivation chamber. This is one of my favorite things to do on Earth, and it's super, super relaxing. People who have chronic pain often find that the pain is relieved. It gives a lot of deep relaxation and relief to chronic pain. It's really wonderful, beautiful stuff. I hope you've had a chance to try this out. So let's go take a look. This is the float room, and you see over here is the shower, and you wash yourself off before and after you go into the float room. This is the float room here, and you can see it's just one big dark box, and this is why I like this particular float establishment, is because they have this kind of float room. I don't much care for the pods. The pods are okay, but I much prefer the dark, tomb-like room. So I'm back from the float. It's really amazing. I just love it. It is so deeply, deeply relaxing and so in line with what we're trying to accomplish. The first thing we're trying to accomplish in meditation. So the first float tanks, it all started with Dr. John C. Lilly. And the first tanks were actually upright tanks. So he would get in the tank and they would put a deep sea diver's mask over his head and pump in the oxygen, and then raise the temperature of the water until it matched the temperature of his body. And that way, the parietal lobe in the brain, it begins to lose the edges of your body. So it can't figure out where your body ends and where the water begins. And so it all turns into this nothingness. And so when you get into a tank and the temperature is right, that'll happen. And if the temperature is a little bit too low, you're not going to get that same effect. It has to be the correct temperature. So I notice some tanks are a little bit cool. Maybe people complain. There's a reason the temperature is a little on the high side. It's because you want it to match the temperature of your body so that you lose the perception of where your body begins and ends. That's also why if you see a picture of Lahiri Mahasaya and he's meditating, his shirt is off. In the actual photo, his shirt is off. He meditates bare-chested because he doesn't want the perception of his shirt bothering his meditation. So that's the why. Very interesting. So John C. Lilly, this was all his concept. He did some great work. He also worked with dolphins. So when you see Navy SEALs working with dolphins in the news, that all started with John C. Lilly. So he's a really amazing fellow. And believe it or not, they were designing this tank. They wanted to get rid of the body. They wanted to get rid of every perception, every sensory perception. And interestingly enough, they were worried that if you shut off all sensory perception from the brain, that the brain itself would begin to shut down. So there was a risk factor going into this because they just didn't know. There were some psychologists who thought the brain would just start to shut down without stimulation. So Lilly offered himself as the guinea pig and got in the tank. And of course, that wasn't the case. And so the tank went on and on, got better and better, and they realized, hey, if we make this like the Dead Sea, you're just going to float up to the surface of the water, and then you don't need this complicated apparatus over your head while you're trying to fully relax. So they removed the helmet, and they pumped in 800 pounds. That's usually, so the tank I was in this evening was 1,000 pounds of salt, but usually a tank is anywhere from 800 to 1,000 pounds of salt. And all that salt, it makes the water more dense than your body.
And so it pushes your body to the surface of the water, which is great, which means you can totally let go and relax. You don't have to worry that you're going to drown in the water. Now, you don't want to get salt on your eyes, so don't scratch your face in the middle of your session. That will put salt in your eyes. That's the only thing that you have to worry about. Now, some people say, well, I don't know if I can stay that long in the dark, because that's what you're supposed to do. It's sensory deprivation. We're getting rid of all of the senses, right? But if that makes you uncomfortable, they have little lights in there. You can keep the light on. So there's all different ways you can deal with your worries around floating. But if you can give your a chance to ease into floating and try it out, it's really worth your time. And if you want to read about floating, you can read John C. Lilly's books. He has a few old books you can check out. But if you want to read a really fantastic book that tries to encapsulate everything that may be happening inside a float tank, you really got to read The Book of Floating. And I'll have a link below. It's a great book, and I highly recommend it. And it also talks a lot about relaxation, and all of that is very, very relevant to meditation. One of the theories that I especially like in his book about floating is that it's the only place where all of the gravity comes off of your body. And so usually our muscles, all of our muscles, our neck, our back, our lower back, our legs, they're dealing with pressures of gravity. And I think he said it's somewhere around 80% of all of the muscle tension, all of the energy that we use in the body is to compensate for gravity. So, great book. I hope you'll check it out. And there's a deep parallel between floating and sensory deprivation and what we're actually trying to accomplish in yoga. So Kriya Yoga especially, we're using Om in the chakras to silence the projections of the mind. So you've got a brain, and that's what you really are, right? That's much closer to what you really are, is your brain and your nervous system rather than your body. And so the brain creates connections. It projects into the body through the nervous system. And all of that projection, we not only project pure sensory perceptions, we also project unconscious material from the limbic brain. And so Kriya Yoga is designed to silence those projections which are being projected into the body. So one by one, we silence the projections of the limbic brain as they appear in the body in what we call chakras. That's all that is. It's just a projection of your limbic brain into the body, and we're silencing that bit by bit. And so you reach the state where you lose the solidity of the body begins to dissipate, it begins to silence itself, it begins to feel very, very clean. These are all the body becomes like a shadow, and you find yourself in front of the spiritual eye, the only reality, the true reality. And so now you're actually in the area of your brain, and you're not projected, you're not enmeshed with the projections of the limbic brain into the body. Now you're actually in the brain, you're facing the brain itself. And that's what Kriya Yoga is all about. And so there, you see this deep parallel between what John C. Lilly was trying to accomplish and what Kriya Yoga actually accomplishes. So if you get a chance to float, it's really amazing. There's so many health benefits for chronic pain, deep relaxation, just taking a break. And it's such a strange thing, you know, what do you do for fun? Well, I go into a room which is completely dark, completely silent. The water covers your ears so you don't hear anything at all, except maybe a little gurgling bubble that rolls up off of your body once in a while. It's one of the quietest, most peaceful things that you can do on earth. I love it. And I hope you love it too. I hope you try it out sometime. So I hope this was interesting, especially the parallel between floating and Kriya Yoga, Lahiri Mahasaya's Kriya Yoga. Hope that was interesting. If it was, be sure to hit that bell so I can see you guys around next time.